Hello and welcome to a Linebreak Rugby podcast. You've got me, your host, Sav. Today you'll have Fred and a very special guest, Squidge Rugby is here.
Hello.
Introduce yourself. There we go. And Fred, you can also say something.
Oh, something.
There we go. So we've got Squidge Rugby on. In fact, if you're a listener of ours, you 100% know who he is because he's bigger on Reddit, he's bigger on Twitter, and he's bigger everywhere pretty much than us. And Squidge, we at Linebreak are just loving the fact that your videos have gone viral. I think it was the Conor Murray one that just went ultra viral. Nearly 300,000 views, I think.
Yeah, it's all incredibly overwhelming. Thank you for mentioning that because my ego has been suffering a bit lately, and it helps to hear reassuring things. Because it's hard to, it's hard to have any self-confidence with it blowing up like this.
Yeah, I can imagine it's been tough keeping the, just keeping the job offers and the DMs kind of quiet. It's a tough life.
Oh yeah, I think the Sam Warburton would have been the biggest moment. I would have thought
that was surreal. That was strange. I mentioned this on Reddit, but I went to see. I've got into the habit of sort of going to the cinema after I put each video up, just sort of basically to calm myself down in case this is finally a video where everyone realises I'm a fraud and I know nothing about rugby. And so I sort of do that. So I'm not looking at my phone for 2 hours. I'm not checking how it's going, and can then sort of see how it's gone down in one go. And I went to see the new Mission Impossible, which is really good, by the way. And turned my phone on, and I had about 400 notifications on Twitter, which is insane, including one from Sam Warburton. And I had a text from my brother just saying, "Sam likes your video."
You should have had a separate. Was it like a special notification? Did it come up in like some sort of shade of gold or something?
It should have done. It should have come up in just in bright red. Just
bright red.
Sam Warburton, the man.
I'm looking right now at your channel, and I'm surprised that it looks like Scotland's Attack's got more views than Sam Warburton. Obviously, it's 5 months older.
Yeah.
And then Conor Murray's got almost 300,000, which is absolutely amazing.
A few. It's going okay, I'd say.
And only two are coming from us, so.
I remember so obviously your video, the Sam Warburton one, had just come out, and we're watching it as immediately as possible. But then CC, I remember CC just messaged on our group chat that we have, and he was just like, Sam has liked Squidge's video, and it literally we were all just like, yes. Like there was just like genuinely, we were just so happy for you. It was just brilliant.
Thank you.
And it's kind of hard. This shouldn't be kind of a weird adoration thing, but genuinely we've seen you on Reddit, and I think it was CC originally, like ages ago. He was like, "Oh, we should get this Squidge guy on board. He knows a lot about rugby, and he's quite funny, and we know he's got this." Do you do some sort of open mic night or something?
I have done. I've done sort of. I was basically sort of struggling comedian for a number of years. And I did a podcast. I did other bits. And I run a sort of a poetry night in Derby.
Okay.
Yeah, which, funny enough, the overlap between rugby fans and poetry fans in Derby isn't very big.
You heard it first on Linebreak.
The exclusive.
But thank you. I really appreciate sort of the endless support you've given. You amongst the first people to sort of to share the first couple of videos. And I do really appreciate it. As I say, it is overwhelming, and I can't quite believe that any of it's actually happening to me. Like, I sort of get that there's some guy making these videos, and every now and again I sit down at Final Cut Pro and spend 40 hours blinking, drowning in my own sweat, until eventually a video comes out the other side. But I haven't quite put together that the two are the same thing. Thank you. Thank you very much.
From a technical standpoint, I like everything you're doing, and essentially I kind of understand how difficult it is because I've done minor video work. So for you to actually sit down solidly and do that effort, I know to be just way more than I'm able to do because I have attempted it and I have failed multiple times just to follow through on different projects. so just from that point of view, like your level of commitment is obviously a lot higher and a lot, I don't know, more sustained, I would suppose, than certainly us.
There's also talent.
It's nothing to do with talent. It's just down to having no friends, no other use of your time. So you just sit endlessly, and again, a lot of it's just sort of perseverance, and it's just being willing to do that. And even sort of the scripts, I rewrite and I rewrite and I rewrite, just because that's how I'm used to working. And a lot of it is just being willing to put the time in, and I suppose finding the time to put in.
Yeah, talking of putting the time in, how many games of La Rochelle have you watched? Because that's all I could think watching the video was thinking, you know, well, Leinster, fine, you know, we all watch their European campaign.
Yeah.
England, Ireland, Wales, Scotland, we all watch them. La Rochelle.
That was an interesting one, yeah, because I watched, it was their sort of maybe first 3 or 4 rounds in the European Cup last season. I still want to call it the Heineken Cup, which it is again. But I've just taught myself to stop saying that. Anyway, yeah, I watched those first few games and was starting to notice that pattern of them putting everyone together, of that sort of bunching structure. And then just happened to see sort of over Christmas, I think, 1 or 2 of their sort of top 14 games on Sky, just because there's nothing else better to do. And the French League apparently plays on Boxing Day at like 4 a.m. Sort of odd times.
There's this thing on Canal Plus, which is the rugby provider in France, the channel that has it. They call anything that's around Christmas Boxing Day. So anything between the 25th and the 31st is called Boxing Day, because they have no idea what it is.
That's the best for you.
So they think that it means football around Christmas.
Okay.
So usually Boxing Day rugby is on the 28th or something like that.
That's the things you can learn. So I just then, having noticed a few things about them and having read up on them a bit, I then went back and watched quite a few of their games. So I probably, on top of the 6 or 7 I'd watched anyway that season, I went back and watched maybe a further 9 or 10. Fast forwarding through some of them, but still like making sure I was getting key points. I was covering what I could, just to be as well researched as possible, because I know there are fans of that team out there, and I don't want to do them a disservice. Essentially,
yeah, it's quite interesting how many they sort of came out of nowhere. Because I remember a few years ago, I went to see them play against Racing in Paris, well outside of Paris, and even then they were no good. They were like one of the worst teams in the league, and they were playing against one of the best teams in the league, against their pretty much a B side.
Yeah.
And they still had quite a few people in the crowd outside of Paris. I was quite impressed with that.
Fair play. I mean, French rugby, I'm constantly surprised. I mean, we could just talk about French rugby now because Fred's just going to go off on one, but the French rugby following, I feel, is a lot more fanatical, and they fill stadiums better than most of the UK. And I'm not 100% on Wales, but I'm assuming Wales, Scotland, and maybe Ulster and Connacht. But the Pro D2 just pulls in massive crowds, and that's the second division of French rugby.
Yes, so it doesn't really have to do what level they're playing at. It has to do with local identity of the town. So it really is some towns like rugby, and they've been invested in the team. So it doesn't really matter where the team is playing; the crowd will be there.
That's really interesting, and I think it's sort of closer to football in England, in that way. It's again built on the town. So Gloucester's as well in rugby because it's more of a rugby town. But you know, I grew up in Nottingham and Derby, and football is massive, even though they've been in sort of second and third divisions my entire life.
But those people who watch Nottingham and Derby, do they not go and watch? Do they sometimes go and watch some Premier League matches a bit further away, or do they? But they at least watch them on TV, don't they?
It'll be watch it on TV, but it'll be mostly they'll go and watch Forest. They'll go and watch Derby County each weekend.
Well, when I went to the Exeter Saracens final this year. Sadly, didn't come out on top. But we were travelling in, and there were Fulham fans, and they just I was thinking to myself, this is obviously a big game for Fulham. They're getting promoted, whatever. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people following, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go and watch the football. It wasn't like a small thing. For them, it was obviously a massive deal. They were like fully dressed in the most kit you could possibly wear, with flags and all sorts of craziness. And I was just thinking, I can't imagine a rugby, apart from maybe Bristol, I couldn't imagine any other rugby club in the Championship or the lower leagues kind of getting that level of support.
No.
You know, just that craziness. So,
and you look at when Exeter went up, they didn't have that level of fan base.
Yeah.
They had, like, again, reasonable following, but not nearly to the level it is now.
It wasn't a fanatical, 25,000 people that would show up. I mean, that barely got that now, and they're a top flight team. So the discrepancy between English football and English rugby is massive. Have you seen the stats that just came out, the World Rugby release?
Yeah. So apparently 1 in 9 people follow rugby.
Yeah.
In 9 people on Earth?
Yes.
Yeah, 1 in 9 people on Earth.
Oh, that's bullshit. Not 1 in 9 people in England follow rugby.
No.
And that's one of the biggest participation rates in the world. So.
Yeah, but they always say Rugby World Cup is the 3rd biggest event in the world. I don't believe that.
Behind what? Behind football and cricket?
And
no,
the Olympics.
Not cricket. Olympics.
Oh my! No, we're behind cricket.
Do you think though?
Yeah, but the amount of people in India that watch cricket. If you imagine you've got like, I don't know, 50% of the UK. Just imagine like 85% of India.
That's true. That's a fair point.
Are you sure 85% of India follow cricket?
They are so crazy for cricket.
I know the IPL is it IPL?
I think it's the second biggest behind FIFA in terms of money. It might even have more money than FIFA, to be honest.
Wow.
It's huge. It's really, really big.
Maybe it wasn't counted as a sport, but more as a hobby.
I think I just feel slightly insecure about cricket generally as a rugby fan. I'm thinking, well, we're better than that one, surely. Like we're above them. Rugby league, I'm confident in. That's like the little brother we put to bed. But cricket is like the mate that's slightly more popular than you, but you're in denial about it.
I mean, yeah, I know what you mean. Because, I mean, we've got rugby players. I mean, I know for a fact that Daly used to play cricket, Sinclair used to play cricket, and they chose rugby because they were better at it, or the career path was better for them.
Aaron Shingler played for Morgan.
Yeah. I mean, there is actually a huge crossover between rugby and cricket, because you play it in the summer and you play rugby in the winter.
Yeah, I was going to say, so like the part of England that I know, which is London, so it's posh people that play rugby, they all not necessarily play cricket, but watch it.
Yeah.
So
it's one of those. I think it's one of those sports where you're not. Like you said, I mean, you're spot on with the analogy. It's a friend that's slightly more well liked than you expect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and just slightly denial about that. Just like no.
So 1 in 9 people. I'm expecting to be able to go down the street and just be able to talk to anyone about rugby. Then, just casually.
I want to disprove it anecdotally, but I don't have 9 friends, so I then have to count. I then have to count in my brother, and he does follow rugby. So then I mess with the statistic.
You've really ruined that one.
I know.
Get 3 more, and you can play league.
I suppose if I'm going to ask a reasonably serious question, is how did you get into rugby when you were younger, Squidge? Was it like a family thing, or did you come into it later? What was the love of rugby?
My dad was, having grown up as an incredibly passionate Welshman, big sort of Welsh rugby fan, but like moved to England just before I was born. So I was tragically born in England. I know.
Welcome to the baddies.
Even I didn't do that.
But yeah, he for basically the first sort of 10 years of my life would sit me down a couple of times a year and go, "No, you're going to watch rugby and you're going to get it." And like he'd take me to, that they used to do the Friday night games at the Millennium in the autumn. He'd often like take me and my brother out of school, and at lunchtime on a Friday, drive us down to Cardiff and have us go to that game.
He's the best.
Yeah, he was just really desperate for the pair of us to like rugby. And it was I was sort of reluctant. Like, I got to a point where I kind of liked it, but I wasn't properly into it, if that makes sense.
So it was immersion therapy.
Basically, yeah. It was.
So which came first, the passion for rugby or the accent?
The accent is an unfortunate byproduct. But yeah, it was the 2008 grand. Sorry, to continue my story.
Yeah.
Let's talk about me. The 2008 Six Nations. My mum made me and my brother come and watch the England game, where it was his first game, with my dad, in order to avoid what is only known as the Fiji incident in our household after the previous World Cup, which was an ugly day. That was a side of my dad I did not see again, and not just because he ran off. But yeah, I got it somewhere in that second half as Wales came from behind. And I remember the following week playing Scotland, and actually that morning feeling quite excited about watching the rugby, and it slowly sort of trickled in from there. And like the moment he'd got me on the hook with international rugby, it's like, right, I'm taking you to see the first Ospreys game. I saw them play Saracens, and it just sort of went from there, and I snowballed into it.
Wow. I mean, fair play. It sounds like it's usually parent dread. I don't know about Fred, but mine was certainly parent led.
Mine's not. But
so what's yours?
I just sort of watched it on TV. I'm basically from a pretty rugby town.
Yeah.
I played a bit on the beach. Met some of the Burecks players on the beach when I was about 9 or 10.
Oh wow!
And that started it basically.
You're not from Pau then?
Technically, I'm born in Paris, so not really a rugby town.
You're Parisian.
But my family's from Pau and from Burecks.
Oh, okay.
So I am still in the top 14 by family links.
Do you have any idea who those Biarritz players were? Have you ever tried to find out since?
Yeah, because they played in for France at the time.
Wow. Okay. Who was it?
So go on, talk us through who you might have met on the beach.
So Betson, Bruce, Harry Nordicky.
I mean, you've met some pretty big men there.
Yeah.
Those are I don't know if I'd call them household names, but certainly if you're one of the 1 in 9 people that follow rugby, you're gonna know those names.
I am one of those 9 people.
That's true actually, because that kind of would we need to find 20 people then, because we're one of the 9, or 18 people or something. Yeah. I mean, this is just the maths isn't my strong point.
I just walk down the street, just say, do you know who Imanol Nordicky is? And if they say yes, can you spell it?
Is it then meant to be that hard to spell?
Oh,
I mean, I can't spell it.
I can spell it.
Off the top of my head, Harry, and then I just put like Nordic, and then is there a Q in there? I don't know if there's a Q in there.
Yeah, Q-U.
Okay, well,
Q-U-Y.
Is it Q-U-I or Q-U-A-Y?
No, Q-U-Y.
Oh, just Y. Okay, no A. See, I'd have gone kind of key, as in like a key. You would walk watery-based key.
Yeah, but that's the problem with your English language, is that you know vowels don't mean anything. You can use any to mean anything, and then the Kiwis will get it wrong anyway.
Then the vowels in Doucetois used to throw me as well. So, and I never knew whether there was 2 N's in Bonaire or not. So that French back row was a nightmare for me when it came to
I think Bonaire has two N's. I'm not 100% sure.
Is it like du Sautois?
No, du Sautois.
Oh, Christ.
AU is O in French.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, we're getting French lessons from Fred. This is this is actually quite fun. So if we take, because obviously you've made 2 videos about this team, so they're obviously very important to you. Not as important, obviously, as anything to do with Wales, but where do you stand on? Obviously, it's a pointless hypothetical, but the Crusaders Leinster conversation,
that is
because that's the big one. It's a pointless conversation, but it's a conversation that I actually quite enjoy.
Yeah. The thing is, though, you want to say, yeah, this side is definitely better, or if they played, this side would win because of this. But I genuinely think if they did like a 3-test series, which would be the dream, but is probably never going to happen, it would be fairly even. It would be at least 1 win each, and then it would come down to, whether it's raining, whether it's not, how they can play it out. Because I think they're very evenly matched sides, and they play quite differently. But I don't think either side is better than the other. I don't know whether you feel similar.
I've just realised that what you've given as an answer is a brilliant tip for politicians. If they ever get a hard question, just say that it should be a 3-test series.
Brexit should be a 3-test series.
Yeah, to be fair, first round
be one hard and one soft at least, and we don't really know what's going to happen in the third one.
Yeah, I mean, the first negotiation, we'll give it to the EU. We'll take the second one, and we'll come back stronger.
God knows what will happen in the third.
Unfortunately, what we're living through right now is the equivalent of the first test for the Lions last year. We're just watching the opposition run it in time and time again. But there we go.
I mean, if we want to go on controversial topics, do we want to talk about egg chasers at any point, or are we?
Oh, is that?
We can skim over that. I brought a Brexit once. That's more than Brexit and egg chasers in one conversation. Because I will.
Oh, I had something on Crusaders when you brought it up. So Leinster won Europe, and if you were going to make a Europe dream team, you would probably have quite a lot of Leinster. But the Super Rugby dream team came out, and I haven't even seen it, but apparently there's only one Crusader in it.
Yeah,
George Bush.
Are you surprised? And are Crusaders actually not the only team that can do that? That can not have the very best, outstanding players and still, I mean, all of their players are good.
Fred, you can't see me, but I'm waving my hand in the air because Exeter are like that.
Oh, fuck Exeter.
I mean, I don't know if you've directed that at me at Squidge because you didn't say, but Exeter are like that. I mean, there's no.
No, I definitely did not direct it at you or Exeter.
But I'll let Squidge go for it.
Yeah, because the one player in is George Bridge, who I'm a big fan of. I think he's a great little player. But he isn't the standout in that team. When you look through the lineup, when you watch, I didn't see every Crusaders game this season, but the ones I did see, I always feel like, he's playing well considering he's alongside Kieran Reid and Sam Whitelock and so on. So it is a surprise to see him as the one in there. But I've got the team in front of me. I suppose the surprise is more the odd people are popping up. So I've lost track of that sentence completely. But
so you're still on about the dream team.
Yeah, I'm just surprised that Michael Little's in the team.
Oh yeah. Wait, if I just go on the, I need to click on that link now. But they have put in some names where it's just a little bit like. I don't know if they were trying to take a player from every team, but then they ignored the Highlanders or something.
Yeah,
there was no Highlanders players, but they seem to take a player from every single team.
They took Mark and Marks, didn't they?
Oh yeah, Mark's obviously, everyone's been touting him as the best hooker in the world. I mean, the reason he's the best hooker in the world right now is because Dane Coles is permanently injured, pretty much.
Well, you say that, but I thought Dane Coles being injured would be good, for the Lions, and then Cody Taylor was absolutely unbelievable.
It's just that New Zealand thing of just finding world-class players down the back of the sofa, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, whenever someone retires, they just find 6 more players that are equally able.
Well, yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter if they make a sub. It's the same as Leinster. This is why when we come back to the conversation of Leinster versus Crusaders, I think, personally, Leinster might have the edge in a long, tiring game because their subs are better.
Yeah.
They're not amazing big names, but every single one of them is just almost an equal to the player that's on the pitch at the same time. But then New Zealand can do that as well. So
yeah,
I love every time the stat of how many players were in the were capped in the squad, and it's like they probably have 25 players that have been capped for Ireland. Like they've got more than a team and a full bench.
So this is why the Irish, and we haven't got Harble on, but this is why the Irish that are not Leinster get quite annoyed, because the whole point of the unions is to spread out all the talent, and Leinster are like a factory that just keep making and making the same amazing second row and back row forwards that you could just live off for generations, and then they just don't give any of them to anyone else.
But we can argue that's pretty recent. Like 10 years ago was when Leinster started actually dominating. Before that, it was all Munster.
True. The O'Gara era, who's now gone to Crusaders. I mean, that's your link there.
But then that Munster team were mostly built off. It wasn't an amazing squad. It was basically an amazing 15. That sort of golden generation, as they called it, of players they relied on very heavily. They relied on O'Gara, O'Connell, etc. But then, maybe they did have lots of obscure players that weren't Duncan Williams that were great.
I couldn't name, and this is I've been following rugby since I was 5, so it's 20 years now or so, and I couldn't name any other Munster players aside from O'Gara and O'Connell from that team. Now that I think about it, I'm really struggling. Foley would have been actually another one.
Is this a question? Am I supposed to try?
Well, I'm trying to just spiel off some other ones. Just thinking of the similar to George Bridge, you know.
Yeah, it's Hayes, Hoare, and Flannery front row. O'Callaghan, O'Connell second row. Wallace, Quinlan, and Foley back row. Stringer, the old little himself.
Yeah, don't remind me of 2006 Stringer. Don't want to know about him.
I never want to know about Stringer. I can't believe he actually retired. And actually,
what's the joke? We had a podcast about Stringer was going to play longer rugby than Lee Halfpenny or something.
Yeah, well, he played his last game after Sam Warburton.
Yeah, that's painful. That's a bit.
Yeah,
I don't. That's kind of sad. It's not, because it's just amazing for Stringer, but it's also a little bit sad.
Yeah, Warburton's what? He's 29, right?
29. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a short career, but it's not an incredibly short career.
No, he's still got 10 years. 9 in the Wales squad.
Two Lions tours.
Yeah.
So you summed it up in your video. To be fair, he's had a decent innings. To be honest with you.
Yeah. Back to cricket though. I'm a bit insecure with the cricket terminology.
Yeah. Do you think he's played more games for the Lions or for the Cardiff Blues?
It's fairly even, isn't it?
I don't know. That's Fred, you're kind of making me a little bit sad about a player that I shouldn't be emotionally attached to in any way, shape or form. I mean, when he played for the Lions, I was emotionally attached. Yeah, but emotional attachment implies, I suppose, that if he wins, that I should be overruling happy. Do you know what I mean? Whereas when Warburton won, if he beat England or if he beat, I don't know, if they were playing extra at any point in time, I wouldn't be happy particularly. But
he has given me a lot of joy by beating England as well.
Sure, we can go down that path. It all ends up with Fred. It always ends up as just a bashing England sesh, which is fair. But
it's fun.
It's not. Yeah, it might. Maybe I wouldn't do it as much if you didn't always bring everything back to England. You don't do it as much as the others.
Well, if Wallaby Joe was here, we'd be talking about Harlequins in England about every 5 seconds.
We'd be talking about Crusaders Leinster, going like, you know what that tells me for England?
I tell you what, Johnny Wilkinson in 2003, he'd have been better than Richie.
We're talking about Wallaby, not Stuart Barnes.
Oh yeah, let's talk about Stuart. Stuart Barnes, I feel like, is a safe topic that is also controversial. Do you know what I mean? We can talk about.
I like him more and more because of his engagement on Twitter. He doesn't shy away from.
He doesn't hide. I feel like quite a lot of other pundits, and especially the Times writer guy.
Yeah, Stephen Jones.
Oh, Stephen Jones.
Yeah, I mean, he just blocks everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, we're blocked, and then I see Dwight416 or whatever retweet something, and I'm like, I can't see that. What's that? So I go on my personal private account that I will never share on here, and I just go, oh, it's Stephen Jones. I get it, and then I just switch off and go, I don't want to read that nonsense.
Yeah.
But Barnsley just doesn't care.
No.
He'll engage and he'll talk and he'll defend his point constantly.
I'm actually
fair play.
Anxious about the thought that I've been tagged in enough people sending him the video and he hasn't responded to any of them. And yet he's good for responding. He'll normally respond in 10 minutes. So there's a fair chance he's seen it and hasn't liked it.
He's 100% seen that video.
The Warburton one has been seen, but I think by everyone in rugby, genuinely.
This is the thing. It's got, what, 60, so many people have shared it.
60,000 views, and that is 1 in 9 in the population. So
that's spot on.
But yeah.
Yes, because 66,127 it says on in front of me. So multiply that by 9.
But realistically, Squidge, your shall we say growth is to hit about, what was it, 75% of 1 billion, so 750,000. That's really what you should be getting for your views.
That's what I'm aiming for. That's my aim.
Yeah, really, the channel is a little bit underwhelming.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of room to grow.
Have you? I'm interested because we hold you up there. You've got nearly 23k subs. I think it's 22,000 at the moment. But we hold you up there with you're above where Mujati was. Brian Mujati, Life of Brian.
Wow.
I think so. But my point being is that he's kind of stopped because he doesn't feel that he's getting the engagement. Yeah, he hit 17k subscribers.
Wow. Okay, so I'm okay. Maybe he needs to do less videos in the gym and more bad Brexit jokes crammed into rugby videos.
And old Spider-Man PlayStation games. Those are the references that the people want.
See, I really like the Mujati video. I think the best bit from his videos was when he did the transition from racing to sail was the most interesting bit. Because you could really see how he was really not enjoying France. And how happy he was to change.
There's one where he talks about being left on the bench, which is really interesting. And as someone who wasn't good enough at rugby to ever start for a team, he articulates it really well in terms of just that pain of knowing you're almost there but you're not quite good enough, and you're only good in certain situations. Yeah. And
I think of that almost every time I watch American football. Because they have first, second, third string. They've got 55 guys on the bench, usually 55 guys total in a roster for 11 on the pitch. And I'd say about 20 to 30 guys don't touch the ball.
Yeah.
As in don't get on the field, but they suit up, and it must take about 15 to 20 minutes just to put the uniform on. And it just I don't know how they stay focused in their heads, how they do anything when they know that there's a 1% chance that they're going to play at all.
But you also know those players once upon a time, like whether they were at high school or back in Pee-wee days or whatever you used to do, were the best player on the pitch because they've still managed to make it to the NFL.
Yeah, so the guy, the third kicker in the NFL that's been brought in just because the first one had an injury, was the start in his Texas high school with 10,000 people looking at him every weekend.
Yeah. Well,
to go from that to sitting on the bench.
My brother played against Paolo Udogwu when they were maybe like 15, and at the time, knowing he was in academies and he was getting sort of England age grade caps. I'm saying just he was insanely good for the standard. I'm saying there was like a couple of like locks that made Leicester Academy and didn't end up playing pro rugby. But you can always tell like right away these players are so much better than everyone else.
Yeah, a standard above.
Yeah,
and I mean we've discussed this at length. It's the same situation. I played against Daly and Clifford. Clifford was the one that stood out in my mind because we played him as we were under 16s. We'd won a national competition as a club, and like it was a really strong team. And I remember Clifford tearing our team apart, and it never really come into our minds that one player could be so much better because we were just a good team. We weren't like relying on one individual player. And it was just the standard of suddenly like, oh, this guy actually is a level above what we are able to play.
Yeah.
And it was weird. We didn't know what to do with it. We were just like, okay, we've somehow got to all tackle him and then deal with whatever else happens.
But he looked that right up to under-20s level, Jack Clifford. He was... I remember watching that under-20s World Cup when he was playing, he was England captain. He was amazing. He looked so much better 100%. Than that standard still.
He was pure power, and I can say that from someone who's been bumped. Like it's just he is a really good player, and obviously now he's playing Premiership Rugby, and hopefully this season after his injury he's going to come back firing strong. So we're back to talking about Harlequins. How do that?
Oh God.
We're back to talking about Harlequins.
His presence is still felt.
Exactly. But that's just one of those things. I think you can
videos.
notice.
So what about the next video that you're going to do?
It's actually, funny you should ask, on France. On the French team, yeah.
Because to be fair, there's quite a high comedy value subject.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's
well,
endless
comedy for the outsiders, depression for the insiders, and it's also a bit of a police thriller because there's all of the
oh yeah, shit.
There's the different arrests that should take place, different people that should go to prison. Yeah.
It's my French connection. That's what I'm doing here. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, Jason Bourne as well, maybe.
Yeah. Any film involving arrest and France in the same film. Never mind. I was going to go for French new wave cinema tangent. I'm not going to do that. It's a rugby podcast. Yeah. I just think it's quite an interesting topic. And I had someone weirdly recognise me when I was at work. And say you like the videos and asked me to do one on France, and I was like, haha, maybe, and it just sat in the back of my head until I realised, actually, you know what, there is something there, and now that's happening. Now I'm about 48 seconds into the video.
It would be interesting to see. What I don't understand is with France is it's not the are we going to turn up, are we not? It's just what I'd like to know is what the systems are.
And
because
if there are any,
they're really not obvious, and you always hear, we don't know if they even have a system. You actually hear that from like in Toulon.
Yeah.
Some people have gone to the they've gone there for a year and they've come back going like, we weren't coached. We were told, you're all Blacks, just figure it out.
So you know the what's it called? I mean, are you talking about the French club teams or the national?
I'm guessing the national team must be a little bit different. But what I know is in 2011 in the World Cup, the line-out system wasn't working, and Harry Nordicky took over.
Yeah.
They literally stopped. Well, they probably still had a system, but they changed it. The players just went, fuck that, we're doing our own thing.
There was a training session a few days out from the World Cup final, which apparently Levemont didn't turn up to, or didn't speak to any of the players at, because they'd fallen out by that point, and the players had just taken over. It's basically Doustoire and Nordicky coaching the team.
Yeah,
apparently it's all rumours, but
that's old. That's old school captain I'm sure. Kind of stuff, eh?
But yeah, the interesting about their system at the moment is, and I get into this in the video, but they adopted this utterly insane thing when Brunel took over, which I'm still not quite sure why that happened. But instead of appointing an attack coach, a defence coach, a forwards coach, etc., he says he's going to change them each campaign. So their attack coach in the Six Nations was completely different to their attack coach in the summer, which is why they were terrible with the ball in the Six Nations, and they were suddenly amazing against New Zealand. So they've got no consistency whatsoever, which is a terrible idea, and it's forcing the team to learn game plan after game plan in a season rather than be able to slot back into it. Although, if that means that they end up finding this ideal lineup by the World Cup, fantastic. If Jacques Brunel wins France a World Cup, then I take back everything I've ever said.
That's a big if.
It's impossible to play against if you're constantly changing it.
Yeah.
You study the tapes and you go, they're going to attack with one out ball. The forwards are just going to smash it. Oh my God, Teddy Thomas has got it. What is happening?
They turn it the following week and they play the cross instead.
Yeah, it's it's a bold move as usual with the French. Everything they do appears to be incredibly brave.
The problem with the World Cup is that it's not just 2 games; it's more.
Yeah, I suppose
that's a problem. If there's only 2 games, I'd fancy Wales to win it.
Maybe longevity, and the reason I suppose will be injuries, because the Welsh seem to just go to a World Cup and then all their players fall apart. And
have I accidentally Wallaby Joed? Have I just turned it back into let's talk about Wales now?
I tell you, let's talk about Wales. I remember the crisis. Like you had. I mean, I actually think James Davies is quite a good winger.
Yeah, yeah. Surprisingly effective winger.
Because he's a sevens player, isn't he? At heart.
Yeah.
And stick him on the wing. I made a joke in the chat ages ago in our group chat saying that he was better. Was he better than Hallam Amos or better than Corey Allen? I was trying to wind someone up. But I think from a tactical point of view, he's a really good defender. He's pretty quick. He'll beat his first man because he's just strong.
Yeah.
And most wingers, apart from maybe Rockadunguni, are not particularly strong. They're just quite quick. But I actually rate him as a winger. I don't expect him to transition to the wing anytime soon.
No.
But he's good to have on the bench in a pinch if you need him.
He understands how to defend and mark space better than George North as well. So I wouldn't mind him being out there in a way. Ideally,
I'd say
we'll get there with a full team.
I actually feel bad for North. I think Northampton has really stunted his development.
Yeah.
I don't like to speak ill of a rugby team particularly, but I really don't think it's helped him at all. I think he would have been better off somewhere else, and I think it's quite good that he's. He is leaving, isn't he?
He's going to the Ospreys.
Yeah, he's gone to Ospreys.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
because
I think he's going to be better off. Honestly,
what we need at the Ospreys is more injury-prone wingers and centres.
Exactly. I mean, that's key for the Ospreys to hold an identity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is our One True Region identity, entirely based on. We've lost Ashley Beck. We need someone to replace him.
You could put that on a T-shirt. I mean, I really think. Like, I love George North. I think he's another player that's kind of iconic with Wales. I mean, he's not obviously a leader like Sam Warburton, but if someone speaks about Wales, it's Shane Williams, it's Sam Warburton, and George North. Those are the three that stand out for me at the moment. Obviously, you've got Bigger and Halfpenny and all these other massive names.
Yeah, but can you see Guinness making out about Bigger or Halfpenny?
That's the point.
See, they could do one with Warburton, no problem.
Yeah,
they could do one with Warbs, Alwyn Jones, and North.
They could do anything with Alwyn Jones. Alwyn Jones could do any advert. I could have him do like a BT advert. Yeah.
Could he sell Smarties?
He could sell Smarties. He could sell all Smarties. In the middle of the blue Smartie crisis, he could sell Smarties.
1 in 9 Smarties have been sold by Alwyn Jones.
Oh dear. But. So I mean, you've got this iconic player in George North, and then you've got he's not played. I don't think he's ever played badly, quote unquote, for Wales. But I just think he could have lived up to maybe potential because his potential was so massive.
I think Northampton used him as more of a battering ram than he's at his best when he's being put in space and given the chance to use all of his skills rather than just his size. I've also always thought he kind of struggles with his positioning defensively, and for whatever reason that got worse at Northampton, which you'd have thought he wouldn't do, considering they're a team that's normally you don't think of as being defensively frail anyway, until last season. But
they play like 10-man rugby though quite a lot.
Yeah,
which is very negative. I mean, they were at their best when Foden and Ashton were running rings around people. And when they lost that kind of dynamic
that was a long time ago, wasn't it?
That was a long time ago when Northampton were really, really good.
But that's still kind of what I think of when I think of
70. He's still got 70 caps.
You
think of who?
I think of Foden Ashton, and then I think of Stephen Myler banging over a conversion, then continuing to be the most 5 out of 10 rugby player to ever play.
Stephen Myler got an England cap. He got a few England caps, didn't he?
Yeah. I quite like Stephen Myler. I quite like that there's place for someone so like dad level average in rugby. I like the fact he's never had a bad game, but he's never had a particularly good one. I like Stephen Myler. That's probably harsh on him, but
I don't know. Yeah, it's a little bit harsh. He's got one appearance for England. He's got 1 cap. And he got a conversion. You're quite right. He gets a conversion and then he goes back.
That sums up his career. That sums up him perfectly.
325 appearances for Northampton.
Wow.
Jesus Christ. The man has played a lot. I mean, he was a rugby league boy originally. He's got his senior career at rugby league until 2006. played a lot of games in rugby league actually. 49 games for Widnes and 12 for Salford. So I mean, he had a genuine rugby league career and then stepped across.
So many games in total. That's absolutely insane.
And he's now 34. For some reason, perpetually in my mind, Stephen Myler's been 29. So that was obviously the peak of my rugby life.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea of how many rugby games you've played?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, what since like adult level or?
I'd say 15 aside rugby.
15 aside rugby. So what?
Yeah.
That goes back to 15 years old, 16 years old.
Under 14s. Under current rules, it's under 14s.
Okay. Oh, to be fair, when I made the step up to 12, 13 years old, yeah. I don't know. So say, was it 18 games a season?
Not at that age.
We played a lot at school, and I used to play Saturdays and Sundays.
Oh yeah, you had school.
Because I played school rugby, and then I played...
Yeah, but on Sundays you don't play every week, you play like once a
No,
month.
you play every other week, and yeah, there's a bit of a break. And you would train. I don't know. I think I've played a lot of games, but I don't think I've played anywhere close to 325.
Exactly. I think I've been at my current club for 4 years, and I've played about 70 games, and that includes tour and everything.
That's just a lot of
So I can't even picture
guys.
what 300, 350 games. That's 5 times more.
Yeah. I suppose you have got sponsors though demanding more games and demanding to see these played, whereas I don't imagine you do have a whatever level. Like
yeah,
big stuff.
Yeah, the Bruco aren't demanding we go and play it.
I get very high demand sometimes when they put me up in the threes.
I get that. I do get annoyed. I was seeing this conversation about bringing Tamua back, and this is going to be just my angry opinion. They're bringing Tamua and another player back that I forgot the name of.
Palatinau.
Oh, yeah.
Palatinau. And so they're bringing him back. They're going to do a training session, and then they're going to send them back to Australia because they were signed under the idea that they wouldn't be playing for Australia. And I had the thought, like, I know that I'm not getting paid wages, but I kind of like to think of rugby still under we're your club and we like you as a human.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And would my club be happy if I went and played for somewhere else on the other side of the world? They wouldn't ask me to come back for a weekend to have a chat about training and then go back.
Yeah, I'm checking up how many. I'm trying to figure out how many caps Tamura has, because I think he's being selected on the fact that he's signed for the Rebels next year. So that makes him eligible, is the fact that he's going to be in Australia.
Yeah, he's got 20
Whereas
caps.
Palatinau has 70 caps. So he's in the rule that makes him available. So when they sign him, they should have known that he could be selected by Australia because of the Gita law.
So for one, it would have been... Yeah.
He's played 33 times for Australia. He's got 33 caps. So genuinely, they could be surprised about Tamura, and that he is putting them in a difficult situation, because he was never going to meant to be playing for Australia at that moment. But with Palatinau, they've got no excuse. He's got 60 plus caps. He's eligible for Australia.
Yeah, but do you cut your losses? Because if you're letting him go anyway for that week, I just think dragging him back to make a point.
It's just so stupid.
Dragging him back, yeah, I don't understand the dragging. Like, you just cut your losses. Like, why ruin that player's whole kind of setup in the national squad because of perceived slight on his part or Australia's part? Or like, who are they having a go at? Are they having a go at him?
It seems stupid on every maybe they're trying to rack up some miles with Qantas.
You got to get into the platinum club or whatever.
Yeah, because they're going to pay for like a business. He's going to go on to business class, and it's going to cost 10 grand to make him go back and forth.
I can't. Yeah, go on.
Sheer like jet lag level as well. Like, he's going to be basically a Jaguares player. By the time
it's
he's
going to
flying
ruin
back and forth constantly.
I feel bad enough if I'm flying back. I mean, I've just flown back from Greece. I mean, but I felt bad enough for just that one day afterwards.
That's a 2-hour difference.
It's a 2-hour difference. He's got a whole day to readjust to.
Yeah, and he's having to do it, then go and train, and then go back and train at a different level in a different place with different people. Fair play to him, I suppose.
I mean, he's got his work cut out, but. If I'm a club man, like if I'm if Tamu is playing for my club, I'm a club man through and through. I'd be like, go for it. Like I don't want to ruin his life. So I don't know. I really don't understand Leicester's point of view here, forcing them to come back. I just think that they're being a little bit.
It makes no sense.
And he's a back. What's he going to do in Leicester's training anyway?
Guys, you just got to discuss the hair products. Practice that key. Do you love me?
We need someone to stand in as the referee while we're doing this maul.
Oh dear! I've got training tonight. We've got the forwards always break off and do scrums and lineouts, and then we'll break off and just be like, "So, backs move. Are we happy with what we did last season? Yeah, cool."
Did you I played rugby for a number of years, and we spent every train again when we broke off into forwards and backs. Running backs moves. I think we used one in a game once ever.
Oh, and they always get really complex.
Yeah.
So you will practice the most complex, like, oh, we'll get it off the back of the line out, we'll do this, we'll do that, and then we'll smash up here, and this will be the support line someone will run. And then the game, like the complex, you'll get a loop maybe.
Yeah.
And,
slightly different.
Yeah, angle. I'm a forward. I've been a forward for 10 years now. I used to be a back, but it's a long time ago. About 30 kilos ago. I was injured last week, so I was taking it easy. So I went to see the backs when we split, just to not be bored. And they were just practicing the usual. So one of the guys was telling me, "Oh yeah, we're just doing the DSPs, I can't remember what it was, and I just went, but isn't that the same move?" And he was like, "No, because instead of passing it this time, you miss." And I go, "But everyone runs the exact same line. So what you're telling me is you practice it differently, depending on the 10's decision. So you actually doesn't have a decision."
Yeah.
I found that really sad.
I mean, you've come into the bit where you don't trust your 10 to make a decision part, because
so the 10 is not trusted to make a decision, and for the others, they know that they're not going to get the ball, so they're running a line for nothing. In the game, it's not for nothing. It's trying to attract a defender, but there it's not for. There it is really for nothing because it's a training. There's no one in front of them.
Yeah, it is, and it's hard to motivate. I remember playing with a 12 in Bristol for a bit, who was great on game day, but in training, if he had to run like a mispass line because of one of those set play moves that we were given, he wouldn't run it. He'd just be like, "Oh, you don't need me for this one." And everyone else would run the line, and the mispass would come, and he'd just be set for the next move. And at the time I was like, it's a bit pointless, but at the same time he knew he wasn't getting the ball.
Yeah. It is also selfish because you are meant to be helping the others.
Yeah.
Oh, you're meant to run a support line.
Yeah.
And you're meant to be used to it. But he was a character, I think, is the way to describe him.
It's an easy way to counter that is to maybe if you think your back's too shit, do a little bit of that, and then end up with a moment where the ball can go anywhere, and your 10 actually has to make a decision.
Yeah.
We had one move
go on, Squidge.
that we never ran in the game, which we called pivot, where all the backs lined up behind the 10.
Yes.
And he would then call he'd call a letter, a combination of numbers or something, and everyone would then get confused and run in the wrong direction, and it wouldn't work.
So this team that I was talking about earlier, the under-16 team that was really, really good, we went on tour, and our call was, I think it was called the 16-6.
Right.
So we'd stand in a straight line behind the scrum, and you'd shout 22 or 20, and 22 was left, 20 was right, and then all of us would just run as fast as we can to the right or the left or whatever, and it was just... that was like I think that might have been the peak of my rugby career when we pulled that one off. Like,
did it
there's
work?
no other moment.
Was that off the scrum?
That was off the scrum in the middle of the park. Yeah.
Cool.
And it worked because we just picked the side that only had like 2 defenders on it compared to the other side.
Yeah, and you just flood it. And then because it's English rugby, you forget to pass, and the first guy that gets the ball runs into the defender.
Oh, don't get me started on that. I once played a full season playing every game on the wing, and the 13 scored more tries than I had touches. Which I think tells you everything about how he played, how we played, and how good I was.
Actually, it really frustrates me. We've got a 13 at the moment who I would actually stake my life on passing.
Wow.
I mean, there's Brian O'Driscoll like making a great pass, and there's all these other great passes, and then there's this guy who plays 13 for us now.
Yeah,
it's like I'd bet my house on O'Driscoll. I'd put my life on this 13 making the pass. Like, I just
nice,
just high quality. I know that's my favourite kind of 13. So I sympathise with you. That season must have been quite depressing.
It was massively depressing. It was cold all the time.
I've had a 15 get what was the equivalent of hypothermia. they were stood. It was snowing. We were playing in Scotland. It was snowing, and we were quite high. Like, it wasn't altitude because Scotland, you don't really play any games at altitude, but it was upper kind of hill.
Yeah.
It was cold, and he was white as a sheet, and he couldn't move his hands properly. And the other team obviously didn't pick up on this because they never kicked the ball. I just don't think anybody could see through the snow. But he was genuinely nearly dying at half time.
Wow.
He had to come and say, "Can I be subbed? Like, I can't play." And we were like, "There's a prop that can come on for you." Like, it wasn't an ideal situation.
No. The first game or the first start I ever had, I've been on the bench like the first 2 games after I started playing rugby. And then it was a game against our local rivals at the time. And I was horrendously ill, but I'd turned up out of just sheer optimism. And was like when you're sort of you've got a cold to the point in which your arms don't really work and they're sort of slightly wobbly.
Yeah.
I felt like that. I felt like I had like wire frames for arms. And I turned up and we only had 14 players, and they didn't leave me on the bench.
Well done.
I don't know if it's because I was the smallest player, because I was clearly ill, but the opposition number 8 just ran at me all day. Which was a great start to wearing a starting jersey, being flattened and sneezing on the guy that's flattening you.
Well, you know that he definitely walked away with an illness.
Yeah,
so
I'll take that.
Yeah, if you can be a vector for a career-ending illness, then that's a positive. I haven't got anything crazy to say. I was having a little look at Reddit to see whether we could come up with anything interesting. I'm still baffled by World Rugby saying that 1 and 9. Like, I get that that's been a long-running theme of this episode, but I've just seen it again, and that's bizarre that they would even try and make the claim. And I don't know what they were attempting to do there.
I don't know what their calculations are.
It's just like they've manipulated stats or extrapolated in some really weird way. They seem to be claiming that in China, apparently in China, the word for football, rugby league, and all these other things is exactly the same, or is very, very similar.
It's just like in Australia, where everything's called footy.
Exactly. So if they went to China and said the equivalent of, do you know what footy is? And they all go, yeah, then that's like 1 and 9, I suppose, and they can get their numbers up.
Yeah, that'd be 1 and 7 then.
Exactly.
And they were probably just given a questionnaire and told, which of these sports have you heard of? And people ticked rugby and they count that as following.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the... Do you know when you... Well, I suppose we don't know, but when you overinflate something, it can only go down. Like, we right now, as rugby fans and followers, people who want to help grow the game, if we are seriously saying that 1 in 9 people know and follow rugby, then it can only go down, because I think football would be fighting us with 1 in 9. You know what I mean? So how can we expect to grow a game?
I think football's got to be more than 1 in 9.
Well, if they do it the way that rugby does it, yeah, sure. Football is way more.
No,
if someone's heard of rugby, someone's heard of football, I think everybody.
I think more than 1 in 9 people follow some sort of football.
I went to Canada last year for 2 weeks, and the entire time I was there, I saw one guy in an all-black shirt at the airport, and the only other sign of rugby I saw in 2 weeks, or heard from anyone, even like if I mentioned it in passing to someone I spoke to, the only response I got on rugby was I found a pre-owned copy of Rugby 06 in a game shop. That's it, and this is a country that's in the World Cup, and apparently, I think it's something like 1 in 15 people follows rugby in Canada, according to that poll. That isn't the case. That wasn't That wasn't the case. And maybe everyone was really quiet about it for those 2 weeks. I watched one Ospreys game on my phone while I was there, and a guy over my shoulder said, "That looks like a weird sport." So,
some Canadians I've met know about it because it was an option at school.
Right. Okay.
But it wasn't big. They already had American football, Canadian football, soccer, and all of that.
Canada haven't. I don't think Canada have made the World Cup.
Not the last one.
Not yet.
No, they have. Yeah, of course they have.
Not yet.
They're still to play in the sort of repechage for the final place, so they could qualify.
And they've been really poor in the last since the World Cup, basically.
Yeah.
Since their amazing tactics of sending what's his name, the huge second row. The guy that played at Clermont when they played France, they sent him into the French huddle.
Jamie Cudmore.
Yes. Oh, Cudmore.
Yeah, Cudmore. He just stepped into the French huddle to listen.
He was an amazing. I suddenly realised I don't know if I'm allowed to swear. But
yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Shithouse bastard. Any of those work.
We invited. Do you know who the driving mall is?
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't. This isn't like just to keep you grounded. I was messaging him and I was saying, "Oh, Squidge Rugby, Majati, these are like the peak performers on YouTube." And he was like, "I'm trying to get subscribers, whatever." And he was like, "Oh yeah, Brian Majati, yeah. Who's Squidge?" And I just explained to him who you were, but I just thought it was so funny that he was like trying to have a conversation about growing himself on YouTube and he didn't know who you were, and this was like just after the Sam Warburton video had come out.
I mean, I don't really know who I am either, so I understand his point of view.
I was working on making the screenshot into something funny, but I lack any kind of creativity. So
no, but it's a good. It shows you that probably your videos haven't really quite reached New Zealand.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Actually, there's room to expand.
And that there's loads of room to expand. There's 4 million people that you could get subscribing to your channel.
Yeah. 4.
In fairness, I think New Zealand bumping the numbers there on that 1 in 9.
There was a stat the other day saying that more people watch the ITM Cup in New Zealand, or the Mitre 10 Cup, whatever it's called now, than watch the FIFA World Cup.
Oh.
Wow, that's impressive.
So, yeah, they are making up for the 1 in 9. Admittedly, there's not many people. There's 18 people in New Zealand, so only 2 of them follow rugby. But
and one of them is Richie Mwanga.
Yeah.
I'm actually not surprised that more of them watch the Mighty 10 Cup. I mean, they're mad for it. I mean, FOV, I've never experienced it, but FOV's just like every university, like if you're there, you're like interested in rugby. There's something to do with rugby. You'll go down to your local park and you'll watch rugby.
Yeah,
that's great.
Whereas here, it's just football forever and a day.
And in Australia, I realise now that it's even less than I thought. So I knew that rugby was on the way down, but been playing Australian football, and the guys were crazy about the World Cup. And they know nothing about rugby. They don't even watch the Wallabies. So people from Melbourne and from a few of them from Southern Australia as well, or from Western Australia, so even Perth guys, don't watch rugby.
Is the AFL pro?
Yeah.
The AFL is pro. Okay.
It's fairly well paid as well.
I always remember back to Eddie Jones's interview. He went to the Oxford Union and answered some questions from them. And he said that professionalism was the one thing that killed professionalism killed Australian rugby. In his opinion, it should have stayed amateur. I'm sure he went on to explain that point, but essentially he was really against Australia turning professional.
Well, that was in '95, so
Quite a long time ago.
I don't think Australian rugby died in '95, 23 years ago.
I did okay in '99, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, they made it to... Wait, they won it in 95.
They won the World Cup, yeah.
Yeah, they won the whole thing.
Made the final the following World Cup, 2003. And that's last time.
Made it. I mean, then Johnny.
And then they made the final again in 2015.
Yeah, they've done okay.
I'd always put an asterisk on that 2015 campaign because New Zealand were far and away the better team, obviously, and they did kind of run riot in that final.
I don't think they ran riot in that final. I think they won it fair and square, but I think they struggled.
At moments.
They had moments as is
genuinely.
always.
Australia had a genuine shot in that final.
They're always going to struggle, and Foley actually had a tournament of his life, but for some reason, I've never had him down as being a World Cup winning 10. Like just like he didn't, to me, ever show that.
That's because
kind of
as a
skill.
10, you think that you need to be a World Cup winning 10 to win a World Cup.
No, because like if you look at Israel Folau, like as much as we might genuinely think that he's a terrible human being, he has the standard of being a World Cup winning 15. Like you could put him in a World Cup winning side and just be like, yeah, fair play.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at Sexton, you look at Farrell, you look at Barrett, like these I would say they're World Cup winning 10s. Foley, to me, I never saw that side of him,
I think the one game, though, in which he did look like that player was the game against England in that World Cup.
He tore us apart.
Yeah.
He tore us a new one.
So you're suddenly on recent enough evidence that, he could do that again. He could be a World Cup winning 10 for a day.
Yeah. He's got, maybe he's got it in his locker. Yeah, he's got that standard. And he did show us up. I mean, if there's one thing 2015 should have taught the English is to be a little bit more humble. And then immediately after that, we 3-0'd Australia, and all of that idea of being humble went out the window. We literally went straight back to being, oh yeah, we're the best in the world, we're going to beat New Zealand, way.
England were humble before the loss as well, because you were under Lancaster.
We were under Lancs. Yeah, that's
true. You
were
actually had a humble head coach.
We had a Gareth Southgate at the helm,
Yeah.
It wasn't quite the same euphoria, obviously, of Gareth Southgate, but Lancaster, there was a lot of positivity in the squad.
No, what would be an iconic thing that would have been sold? So, like, apparently, loads of people started buying vests in June to start looking like Gareth Southgate.
The waistcoat.
I've seen pictures of people at work where every single person turned up without a jacket.
I went to a cricket game at the Oval. And there was a whole section of friends, obviously, that had all bought Gareth Southgate masks and a waistcoat, and they were all just standing up. Anytime there was a run scored, they were standing up, just like chanting randomness. Like it was just chaos.
It was my favourite thing about the World Cup was it brought waistcoats back into fashion. As a man who openly wears tweed, that's quite exciting.
How do you not openly wear tweed?
You'd get on with my granddad next to be fair. You and him would get on like a house on fire.
Is he a tweed man?
He's a tweed man.
Excellent. Dad, I like him.
I've got something to tell you. I wear tweed.
Yes. There are dozens of us.
And, you probably don't all go hunting and shoot grouse or something like that. I actually have no idea what my granddad would do, if he actually does that or not. But I feel like he should as a Devon man.
Live up to the stereotype.
Exactly. If you're not living up to that, I've just realised we've been blathering on for about an hour and 15. Is there anything more ideas of expansion? So obviously you've written that article. We're going to bring it back to just talking about Squidge.
Okay.
You've written that article for Rugby Pass.
Yes.
Obviously, I feel like that was correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like that was a script adaptation.
Yeah. I've done the same thing for the Sam Warburton's one as well. Which I've sent to that should hopefully go up soon. So that's been written. That's now got an anecdote about me sitting on a toilet in it, which I cut from the video and I put back into the script version. or the created version. So yeah, that's hopefully going to go up soon, and do more bits with Rugby Pass, and hoping to do that with each video, to do it as sort of a, for people that complain I talk too quickly, basically they've got a version of it there that they can look at and get the key points and actually read slowly.
And I'm that, I mean, that's brilliant. And I know you're never going to change in terms of speed. And I honestly, I actually think it's one of the, not the stupidest critiques, because I'm sure there's some of our fans that probably have critiqued it, but I just don't see the point of that critique. Like the whole point of the genre, I suppose, that you've created is the speed and the comedy and the informativeness. Like, they all come as one. If you don't like one aspect of it, then the video is maybe not for you. I don't want to say don't watch, because you should watch, because the information's there, and you could just pause it or play it a little bit slower. But yeah, just go quicker. If anything, speed up.
No, watch it. Yeah, watch it again. Just watch it twice.
Just, yeah.
But that's what I always figured, that when I sat down to start, when I was first doing the first video, I thought about the fact that I'm working in a medium in which people can pause and rewind at any moment. I probably wouldn't be putting captions on screen that you can only read by pausing if I was making it to play in a cinema, because people just couldn't consume that. And so I wanted to design it around that, not to get too pretentious, but around that. And so yeah, I'm happy with the radio. I like putting as much in as possible. I like to feel like you're getting value for money, or at least for your time. The majority of people aren't, but yeah. And
you've got to focus. I really like that. I can't. I tend to have my phone in my hand when I'm watching whatever on YouTube. I can't do that.
Yeah, you have to 100%. I mean, I don't know if are you aiming for 10 minutes for each video? Is that the idea?
It's thereabouts.
Yeah, because that's a nice advert length, isn't it? I think.
Yeah,
I don't know, but I'm just, and like Fred said, the concentration. So I'll put on an hour-long video, and I'll just have it on in the background, and it'll be nice. I'll be making breakfast, or I'll be doing whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas with yours, I remember I was lying in Greece, and I was going, I have to watch this, and I had to sit there and watch. And like, normally if I've got a headphone in, someone can talk to me. I was like, shh, I've got to watch this. I'm literally the most antisocial person when watching a Squidge video, because you have to pay attention.
That's what I want. I want everyone to be as antisocial as me eventually. Yeah, no, thank you. That's weirdly humbling, and
you've also, I mean, I don't know, other people have covered it, but it helps that people have to rewind it, because you're getting, I don't know what YouTube's algorithm is, but the more people pause it and rewind it and rewatch it and all of this, it's just bumping all the metrics of engagement and everything.
It probably is. Yes. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know if that was by design, but it was. I mean, if it is, it's a genius way of working your way through.
Absolutely, these videos are going to make me a millionaire. I don't know. I haven't really, since maybe the Conor Murray one, when everything just went insane. I sort of haven't looked at the statistics anymore. Like I'll glance at them here and there, but it gets to a point in which, like, I can't comprehend how many people 200,000 is. When I see that as the view count, that doesn't make sense to me anymore. Like this time
2.5 Twickenhams.
Wow, yeah. But like this time last year, I did.
That's a lot. Jesus.
Almost 3 Cardiff.
Wow. Okay.
That, I mean, if the moment I knew Squidge Rugby was big, and obviously this, Conor Murray, whatever. I sat down. I went home for a weekend. I sat down and I cast 3 videos in a row, and my dad sat and watched them.
Wow. Okay.
And to me, he's an old copper who's retired. He loves rugby, and he sat down and he did the occasional chuckle, and he actually wanted to watch them. So to me, like, he doesn't like weird, strange, comedic things, I would say. But he loved it, and that's when I was like, yeah, this has more legs than perhaps anything else I've ever seen.
Well, thank you. No, that means a lot. That, as I say, that does. And it's stories like that, people showing it to their parents, like I've got a friend of mine who watched it, having no interest in rugby, but his dad's a Sale fan. Showed it to his dad, and his dad was sort of incredibly like enthusiastic about it. I've had similar things of just again people I know that aren't necessarily interested in rugby watching it and suddenly developing, and those are the sort of the things that sort of mean the most, is either people showing it to people that wouldn't be into that format as a means of consuming content, or people that aren't necessarily interested in rugby. They are able to enjoy it. It means a lot.
You're hitting all the right buttons in terms of getting people interested as well, because even so if someone, for example, doesn't know about Sam Warburton but they want to know about rugby, that could come up, and then they can see all of these amazing intricate things that might attract someone to something that's as intricate as the NFL, but then they see that it is a reality and something as chaotic as rugby. And that, I think, can help bring an audience in from another sport into our sport.
I'd really like that if I could grow it to 1 in 8 people. When that report comes out in 4 years' time, World Rugby owe me.
We will. I tell you what. We will quote that. I mean, that could be the title. Squidge Rugby to grow rugby to 1 in 8. That's the aim.
Someone
bigger than Jesus. He was only 1 in 12 or something, wasn't
he? Yeah. 12 disciples. Sure. I've got 23,000 subscribers.
Each one willing to fall on their own sword for you.
Imagine that Last Supper. Imagine how much bread I'd need.
Jesus. Yeah. Well. Literally.
Oh yeah, he was there.
Yeah. He's a disciple of yours. I wonder if someone's got the account name Jesus following you.
Probably.
Maybe.
Right. We should probably wrap up. I mean. Squidge, I mean, we don't need to do this on... we can cut whenever, actually. This has been Linebreak Rugby. I've been your host, Sav. It's an abrupt way to finish, but we've been talking for a long time. If you haven't subscribed to Squidge, I don't think you actually follow rugby on social media. So just follow him on Twitter, subscribe, watch all of his videos.
Or don't. You don't have to. I'm not going to force you to do anything. It's up to you.
I mean, that's how he ends the video, but at Linebreak, if you don't follow and watch his videos, you can't listen to our content. We'll put a physical ban on your ability. And the one Zune user, if you can watch the YouTube video on your Zune, that will just really mess up his metrics. So you do that. You'll have one little grey sliver.
Please do that.
Zune user.
Peter
I've been Sav, this has been Fred, and that's been Squidge.
Thank you.
Fred, do you want to say goodbye?
Goodbye.
Do you want to sing the music?
Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba.